Okay. All right. Let's see. Do I still have this open? Yeah. All right. What's up, y'all? Okay. Do this a little bit. That's a little crooked. Just need to be able to see. All right, what's up? So I have no idea why you're here, or how you found this podcast, but my name's Rymar, and I got started in this game, I don't know, probably like a decade plus ago. Um, yeah, let me look at home studio. Let's see if I have a date on this picture. Let's go to this view and let's see. Get info. Where is it? Get info. 2019. That can't be right. That can't be right because this has to be way before that. So that must be when I brought it into the system. But this is my home studio. Years ago when I first started doing internet things. We used to have a little setup at the house, and I got this crazy little podcast set up in front of me here. You can see I got a nice little mic. I got cameras I can switch. Hello, hello. I got all sorts of stuff set up in this mix, and I don't publish content anymore. And it's crazy to me that I have such a sophisticated setup, and I have so many things to say, but I just don't publish anymore, and I want to change that. And so that's what this podcast is about. So anyway, if you found me, hello, welcome. I got a lot of shit to say, and we're just gonna ramble. There's no rhyme or reason to this. This is called Rated R. We're just gonna kind of run through shit, things that I've been thinking about, stuff that's going on in the world, politics, society, etc. I'm in the middle of building some software that I think is super exciting as it relates to building community and connecting people. And we're living in this world where artificial intelligence is like coming on. We've got things like Bitcoin kind of changing the financial industry. We've got crazy corruption and political turmoil, and like war is popping up everywhere. And we're living inside of this loneliness economy, and people are just more disconnected than ever, even though we have more technology than ever. And I just find that we're like in this moment of change. And it seems like everything is changing around us at a pace that we, don't really know how to keep up with. And I spend the most of my day buried in one screen or another. If you're watching the video of this, you can see I've got a screen here, I've got a screen here, I've got a screen here, I've got a phone here, I've got a second phone here just in case. There's a couple other monitors here that you can't see. And I live in this cockpit. I literally live in this cockpit. There's always things happening. And I don't know what that matters, other than I'm always like in the know. I'm always listening to a podcast. I'm always, reading a book, reading a story, digging into something, doing some research on a topic, learning about a new skill, whether it's a piece of technology or a piece of no-code software or some automation tools or an AI processor. I'm learning how to write code right now. There's so many things that are just kind of like happening all around. And I feel like one of the things I used to do when I podcast and wrote a lot and tinkered with this stuff was I used to kind of digest those ideas, and I used to organize them through thinking through them out loud. And part of that was podcasting, part of that was making videos, and part of that was blogging. And that shit went viral a little bit way back in 2013, 14, I think is the first time that started happening. So it's been almost a decade that I've been doing this stuff. But I've stopped doing anything for me recently. All the work that I've been doing has been for other people, whether it's for a big brand or some large agency or some large tech company or whatever it is. But I feel like my voice has kind of disappeared. Like maybe I don't share what's important to me anymore with folks. And I want to start doing that. I want to get back into a place where I have a platform to just share with the world and, maybe riff, talk some bullshit. Once in a while, I might have a guest on and we'll talk about like, whatever's happening. Maybe some of my friends. I have some really creative friends, some talented people that are doing things all over the world and places like accounting software at scale, automotive design, web design and development, software development, just all sorts of people in my orbit that are doing interesting things. I'm doing some interesting stuff, and I think I could use just a little playground to explore some of that. And I'm also a news hound, right? I'm on top of the political game. I'm on top of tech and culture. I'm on top of society. And I think I have some unique perspectives on some of this stuff, and that's what we're going to do here. So anyway, that's enough of an intro. Rambly McRambleson over here talking about nothing. What I wanted to do is let's open up this thing. I'm going to go into my Twitter bookmarks. There was this tweet I saw the other day, and I just wanted to talk about this real quick. So let me pull this up. Give me 1 second. Okay, here goes. I'm going to share screen. All right, so I'm going to talk about this concept of invisible technologies, right? Because this ties into a lot of what I'm talking about, a lot of kind of the ethereal concept of where I'm trying to head. So give me a minute. I'm going to try to paint a picture for you and then loop it back in. So underpriced idea. This is written by George Mack. I'm just going to read this real quick and then go through my thoughts on this. If a pandemic killed everyone tomorrow, visible technologies would remain. Cars, buildings, and smartphones would still exist. Invisible technologies would die with us. They only exist in our minds. So he then explains invisible technologies as, things like weekends, and saying that no other animal experiences a weekend. It doesn't exist in reality. It's only in our minds. We work during the week and we relax during the weekend. It's a useful placebo that we've created to kind of compartmentalize the work life from the, weekends, from the enjoyment, from the pleasure center of life. Anyway, money is also another thing. Essentially, like the concept of money at scale, it exists because other people believe it has value, right? And because the government enforces that value, and because the society just kind of like exists exchanging that value. But I think we're in an interesting time where, again, money is changing. Even weekends are kind of changing as people get into remote work. And so some of these invisible technologies are shifting. I'm going to get to that. Corporations, a shared imaginary friend that is taking risk. Multiple people can own the shared imaginary friend. Corporations only exist in the shared imagination of human beings. You can't touch or see Nike, Apple, any of these brands, right? You can touch the technology, but the corporation itself, the entity itself, is not a real thing. And so, what is it? Okay, the red pill. Invisible technologies are placebo pills. The more real we think the placebo is, the better it works. Invisible technologies are powerful because they are invisible, continues George. Nobody alive was born during the invention of these invisible technologies. This makes the placebo more powerful. The fish can't see the water they're swimming in. And so basically what this says is that these technologies are just things that exist around us. They're unlike a tangible piece of technology like you might be used to, a device, a computer, a car, a building, a house, etc. Like those things are all stuff we can touch. But in this world that we're living in and moving into, where there's society and cultural norms and all this other stuff, there's these other technologies, things like community, things like, friendships and relationships. And I don't know that those are technologies, those are interactions. But he ends this article with, if you want to not sleep tonight, ask yourself what invisible technologies still haven't been invented yet. And I go back to the idea that these technologies are shifting, right? The weekends with remote work, with people having more flexibility over their time. Sure, the weekend still exists for most people as a regular structure, but I know a lot of people who work on the weekend and enjoy the weekday. Some people that work late shifts that have totally different schedules. I know people who are running their own businesses or freelancers or completely independent that have a totally made up work schedule. My work schedule is very unconventional. Sometimes I'm working at midnight. Sometimes I'm working midway during the day. Sometimes I'm working on a Sunday. And so this idea of a weekend, I don't think it'll ever change, but the way we work is changing and the concept of working is changing. Money for sure is changing. The way we deal with money, the way we interact with money, the concept of what money is changing. That's exactly what Bitcoin is and why, these things are in turmoil, because the government has taken control of just printing as much money as possible. And, people are trying to figure out like, hey, you're extracting this value from me. How do we exchange value together? How do we bypass this concept of money and learn to exchange value? This is what has led Bitcoin. This is what has led a lot of these decentralized projects to kind of gain traction, because people are looking for new ways to rewrite these rules of this invisible technology. And same thing with the corporation. The corporation is changing significantly as people learn to organize their efforts online in totally decentralized or distributed ways, or in totally creative ways. You're seeing all sorts of creator networks. You're seeing all sorts of decentralized autonomous networks. You're seeing all sorts of examples for how people are trying to exchange value in a digital realm that steps away from traditional money, traditional corporations, and traditional work environments. And I think that's what's interesting about what's coming next, because we are, like I started this thing out in a phase of change. There's so much change coming, and it's just wild to think of how the world around us is moving. Um, I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was telling me about how much money his kid was making at, was it like 18 years old? I think just graduated high school, and he's telling me the kid's making like 13 bucks an hour, 12 bucks an hour, something like that. And I started thinking like, damn, I was making 12 bucks an hour 20 years ago as like an entry level job as a lifeguard. How are kids today graduating high school making the same money I was making 20 years ago? Except for everything is 3, 4, 5 times more expensive. You know, it's crazy to think about how things are changing. And like the world we were promised as kids is not the world we're living in. The people who are running the world are completely detached from the actual world around us. Like everybody that's sitting in Washington is what's 50, 60, 70 years old. I mean, if they're 50, that's young, right? If they're 60, that's young. RFK, what is he? 65, something like that. You got Biden and Trump who are into their 80s. You know, we've got senility on sale. We've got either like a convicted felon or a senile old man that's just an empty suit, and this is what's supposed to be running the country. And then you have all these corporations that are just trying to extract as much value as they can from the ecosystem without like worrying about, you know, the lower ends of the rung, of the human rung, the people that are actually doing the work. And it just seems like we're bifurcating as a society in so many different ways, whether it's along racial lines or along political lines or across economic lines or whatever it is. There's just so much tension and chaos around us. And I think the solution to this is connectivity. It's reconnecting in interesting ways, whether that's on a local scale, whether that's through interest groups, whatever it is, we have to find interesting things to unify our belief structures, so that we can like form relationships that are going to survive any kind of turmoil, right? We're in this loneliness economy a lot of people talk about. And I think a lot of that has to do with the amount of time we spend inside of these technological bubbles, detached from each other. You know, we're no longer in touch with our neighbors in our local community. People have moved away from their homes, you know, to go to college, to get a job, to do whatever. So they're not around their family structure. They're not around, you know, the traditional things that you might have, you know, basically all of humanity up until now, up until the last 5 minutes, the last 10 years, 20 years, et cetera. You know, everything is just, and if you're my age, I'm 41. You know, I was born in 83, kind of at the crossroads. We're in that Zennials bracket where you're not, you know, like we were born native to the internet, but we were also born outside of the internet. We were in that weird phase where it like was being born. And so we still have a little bit of both sides of that. We still have the ability to connect with the traditional old school world, but we're also digital natives. And I mean, I just remember since 9/11, since college, how crazy shit has been for, you know, for us, for our entire demographic. You know, this idea of financial success, financial collapse, chaos, terrorism, war, like this has been insane. And it seems nonstop. And I don't really know where I'm headed with all this. You know, it's just a fucking me dumping into a microphone and like getting some of these thoughts out of my head. But we've got to find a new invisible technology, right, to unify us. And it's not a weekend. It might be some kind of new currency, but I doubt it because the currencies are always controlled top down. I guess in the case of Bitcoin, that's a little different, but we're not going to get into the mechanics of that because that's also corruptible at this point too. And it's not going to come from big businesses. It's going to come from us. It's going to come from networks. It's going to come from people. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, right? That was the Declaration of Independence. We need a Declaration of Digital Independence. We, the creators, in order to form a more perfect internet, have to start thinking of ways to interact with these digital tools and with this technology in a way that enables us, empowers us, not the folks in Silicon Valley, not the folks at the top of the corporate tree, right? The systems that we live on, that we interact with, that we deal with on a regular basis, these technologies that we use are all amazing. I love them. I spend way too much time inside of them. However, they all extract value from the users in the form of data, relationship mapping, behavior mapping, algorithmic tracking, etc., to generate revenue for the people who own these entities. And this is exactly why the American Revolution happened in the first place, because the colonies were tired of sending their tax payments to the old world, to the king. No taxation without representation. And so they threw the fucking tea in the Boston Harbor and they said, fuck this, we're going to war because you're taking our money and you're not representing our values anymore. You're totally detached from the situation. Y'all are way over there. The issues are happening over here and you're not in touch with that anymore. And so we're going to just stop playing in your game. And I think that's what has to happen now. We have to stop playing in their game. We need to declare some form of digital independence. And to do that, we need to start connecting outside of these structures, outside of this web, right? And that's one of the reasons I'm super active with local meetups. It's one of the reasons I'm super active with online communities. It's why almost everything I do revolves around connecting people and using technology to create and foster real engagement, real connections, meaningful interactions, and also trying to hold on to the value of those relationships inside of the network itself, rather than letting the technology siphon the value out of those networks. You know, what makes Facebook strong, what makes Twitter strong, what makes all of these things strong is that all of the networks are kind of intertwined and the value of those relationships kind of get abstracted up into, you know, the whole. But the individuals no longer own the audience. If you have a large audience on Facebook, that doesn't mean when you publish, you reach that audience. On Twitter, the same thing. If I have 8,000 followers or something like that on Twitter, when I post, 8,000 people don't see my post, which is ridiculous because all those people have said, hey, I want to hear from you. I want your information. But no, Twitter has said, we're going to algorithmically pick a few of those folks to share this to, and based on how it performs, we'll decide whether or not we share it to more people, which means I don't own the audience. You know, it means I'm completely detached from my ability to communicate with that audience. And those are people that I've worked over the years to build relationships with, or to offer some kind of digital value that they've said, hey, I want to hear from this person. I want to, you know, be a follower of this person. And every social media platform, every one of these large infrastructures has basically perverted that relationship structure where they say, hey, build your audience here. And then once you do, they extract all the value out of your audience and they leave you scraping by. And the only way you can reach them is to pay to advertise inside of these networks. And that's just functionally unsustainable. Like, that's not how relationships are supposed to work. When I create a relationship in the real world, or if I'm a friend with you, or if I know you personally, I manage that relationship. When we talk, there's no middleman. The way I control that relationship is, you know, by making sure that there's some kind of value exchange, that we reciprocate respect, that we, you know, trust and you know, don't deceive one another. Right. And that's what builds value in the real world, these trust built relationships, these value exchange relationships. And that has not been mirrored in the digital world. In the digital world, we've built completely unique incentives for how these things operate. And it has led us to a world where, again, we're dealing with mass loneliness, super corruption, spreads of misinformation, teen suicide and depression. You know, all sorts of problems in dating culture and just societal, you see it all around. And we're going to talk about all that stuff. That's literally part of what I want to talk about, is these crazy ass stories that I see all the time and want to, you know, figure out how to dissect them and chat with them, or chat about them with somebody else. And maybe you guys, you know, maybe at some point these will become interactive and you guys can jump in the audience and we'll have a conversation about some of this, but maybe it's just going to be me ranting into a microphone. So anyway, I don't know where I'm headed with these. I don't even know what this is going to be. I don't know where it's going to turn into, but I know that a lot of times you just have to start doing stuff. And as you do stuff, you'll figure out where you're going, right? Sometimes you don't know where the end destination is. You just know you got to get moving. And so this is me. I'm just starting to move. And yeah, I'm going to publish these podcasts. I don't even know what the cadence is. Maybe it's going to be a couple times a week. Maybe I'll go a week without. Maybe it'll be a few times a month. I don't know. I'm going to try to do them fairly regularly because there's so much happening. And I just want to vent. I fell in love with media, podcasting, publishing years ago, a decade ago, more than a decade ago. And I just, I don't know, I've come to the realization recently that I don't do enough of it. And I'm out here helping other people communicate and broadcast and build brands and do all sorts of stuff, but I'm not doing it for myself. And anyway, this is me doing that. So I'm coming right up on 20 minutes here, and there won't always be a time cap. Sometimes we'll just ramble. Maybe this will be 5 minutes. Sometimes maybe I'll read something I've wrote. written in the past, maybe something I'm thinking about. Maybe I'll bring a story and just read you something in the news. But either way, I'm just going to start putting these things out there. Hopefully you enjoy them. If you do, shoot me a message, me@rymar.com. If you want to send me an email, go to rymar.com. You can send a message through the website and check out some of the projects we're working on. If you're in Sarasota, we're doing some cool stuff with Sarasota Tech. It's, the last 5 months, we've had over 100 people at each of our meetups. We just raised, a ton of money from founding members. Not a ton of money, but, 5-figure digits. We have 20 founding members at $1,000 a pop, whether that's in kind or in cash, and the State of Flow things that we're doing. So Sarasota Tech, local meetup, lots of people coming out. The tech scene in Sarasota is popping off. Lots of people moved here during the pandemic and are settling into the Sarasota community and are looking for connections. I think, the local meetup space is ripe for innovation and, some kind of thing. So we're going to keep experimenting in the local community. And then I'm doing some fun stuff in the digital space with a number of different communities, primarily State of Flow, which is a large web design and developer community online. You can go to stateofflow.io to check that out. And a couple other projects in the tank that, are going to, you're going to hear me talk about. If you're going to listen to these things, you're going to hear me talking about them. Atmos is the tool that we're building. We're, trying to reverse some of these technological trends, building community, building technology that empowers communities, real world communities, to do meaningful things through digital channels, not digital platforms that extract the value out of the communities that are built on top of them. And I think that's going to be a very unique paradigm shift. And I'm excited to share some of that stuff with you. So anyway, episode 1, testing. Is this thing on? Let me know. Go ahead and subscribe, follow the show, whatever it is. I'll be back with another episode pretty soon here. And thanks everyone. Catch you soon.